Good morning, everybody. It is a Monday. We got one more Monday before Christmas, but our year is coming to an end, and I'm excited to get there. We're a reseller revenue Facebook group, and we've been talking about our processes in eBay. So today we're going to talk about our listing processes. I'm just going to do a short overview of kind of what I think we need to include in our listing processes and different variations, because there's really no right or wrong way. I know a lot of people have asked me for different videos for different things. I'm okay giving videos of what I think, what I do that works best, but just always remember that I definitely don't think we're cookie cutter, everybody fits in a mold. That's right, Harry. I am more about there are things that I feel are the wrong way, and I'm okay pointing that out, but there's lots of right ways. So I don't think we all fit in the same mold. So things we need to think of when we are listing our items with processes. So we've gone all the way through we sourced it, we got it home, we didn't throw it in a room in a tied up plastic sack. So that's a win, because that is the wrong way. We have it ready, we hurried up and we cleaned it. So now we have our day of inventory to list at our fingertips. So we either pulled the bucket down, we got the bag out, whatever your day of inventory that's prepped and ready to go, you pull it out, you've got it in front of you. Now what do we do with it? Um, there are some pitfalls I see happen to people as they are going through their listing processes. So that's something I am going to point out, which maybe isn't such a maybe wrong way, but not efficient ways. So if you have a set process, both physically and mentally for listing, I feel like we're not only more efficient, but we are better. So like Harry in the chat says he knows the wrong ways because he's done them. I know the wrong ways with listing because I've done it. And I feel like I'm pretty dialed in, but I can always improve. So you've got your items, here you are. So I'm going to use a light box setup as the example because I use a light box. But when I say that, it could be whatever photography setup you have. So whatever's working best for you for your photography. Now I realize I do it completely different than lots of people. That's fine. Just alter what I say. It just goes better if I try not to fit into a different category than what I'm currently in. So got my light box ready. I have my day of inventory right here. I make sure I have my labels for my SKU bags and my SKU bags literally right there to my side. I mean, it's right here beside me. My labels for my SKU bags and my bags. And then on the other side, I have the bag that my listed inventory goes in, which for me is the day that I'm listing. This is just like a third backup to my SKU number. I'm really considering letting it go, but part of me doesn't want to let it go, but I'm thinking about it. So, but I would still need something to put the stuff I've got listed in. So whether it's dated or not, you need a box, a bag, something to go in, because feel like if we can move like right to left or all in one swoop with our process, it goes better and we don't miss stuff. So then I grab my item to list out of the to be listed bag. Sometimes I do categorize by what it is. So sometimes I will take that extra step and I'll just set my bracelets out, necklaces out, brooches out, earrings out, or whatever. So that I'll just list all of each type, in a series type thing. That saves me because I use sell similar off my own items. So then I'm already in that item. I just do it until I'm done with that category of items. So I do usually take that step. So let's say I've got my earrings all set out. I grab a bag of earrings, dump them out. I do look it over real quick to make sure I didn't miss any flaws. I think that is something we need to do again during our listing process because I miss stuff. You wouldn't believe how many times I get something under the lights and those harsh lights show things I didn't see before that I missed. And so immediately, if it's a flaw that I'm not going to list it with, I have the junk box sitting right here, so I don't have a new pile. Chuck it, and I do have a small lot of inventory that I keep beside where I list that is stuff prepped and ready in case I need to replace something that had a flaw. Because otherwise, I end up short for the day, and I don't want to be short for the day. So go ahead, and then I would replace it or whatnot. Make sure there's no like real nasty stuff I missed. So I do keep a cleaning cloth by me. I don't deep clean my jewelry, but I don't want anything really gross on there either. So I pull it off. I got it here. I'm gonna list it. I take my pictures. I try to take my pictures in the same order every single time. because I feel like if we're taking pictures in the same order every time, we are less likely to miss an important photo. So I turn it the same way. That's going to depend on what you list. So you guys got to think of your own process here. I make sure I get front, back, sides, and then I pick it up and I put it in my hand. I know that's a big argument with jewelry people. You just got to deal with my hand because I don't know what it is about actual flesh tone under a light, but it shows the jewelry amazing. Fake hands, get rid of them, throw it in the garbage can. Come after me if you want. I hate fake body parts in pictures. Like we don't need fake body parts. I feel very strongly about this. I look at fake body parts in pictures and I'm like, why do we need that? Get rid of the excess clutter in the back of your photography. Yeah, wood hands, not a fan. I'm not either. And the fake ears, for the love of God, throw away the fake ears. It's creepy. It's weird. Don't do it. And I'm sure I'm going to get so many comments, and that's okay. Fake ears are not for me. Just put them down in the light box. It's totally fine. Or put them in the palm of your hand. Clean fingernails. Meg and I saw somebody that had fresh blood caked and dried on their hands in the jewelry picture. We have to not be gross. I do have to position my jewelry in a certain way in my hand because I have farm calluses. And I don't even think that's okay, right? So I have to like make sure my farm calluses are covered up. But my fingernails are clean, and if I realize they're not or whatever, I delete the pictures and I take care of it. So it was horrifying, Meg. It was so gross. Clear background. We don't need flowers growing around our jewelry or around our whatever. We don't need to make them sitting in the middle of an ocean. In my opinion, a clean, whether it's white or gray or whatever picture shows off your items, whatever background shows off your items best, is the best. It's easy for AI to pick up. It's easy for people to see the flaws. In my opinion, I do not take time to remove backgrounds. I think it's a waste of time. I feel like sometimes it makes our pictures look different than what the item really is. Sometimes it cuts an edge off. Sometimes it cuts a piece of jewelry. It's really hard on jewelry. Like filigree, photo room does not like filigree. Like it'll all of a sudden start taking the middle of your brooch out. Um, Plus it takes a lot of time. I just don't feel like we need it. If you need to crop or brighten the first 2 or 3 pictures, in my opinion, that's probably okay. But you shouldn't be having to do a ton of that because we should just be taking it correctly in our pictures. But sometimes a little brightening or cropping in the first 3 pictures, okay. In my opinion, I always make sure I have a T-square, metal T-square in my pictures or in my photo box so that I can take a picture of the measurements. Of course, if you have clothing, your measurements are going to be different. But I actually really like the reseller ruler that Tech used to sell, and somebody else is selling them now. So they're still available. The reseller ruler, in my opinion, works great on clothes. I don't, have them to like, I'm not endorsing them as I don't know even who sells them anymore. But I feel like in a picture, if you have all your measurements correct, I feel like it it just it protects you a little bit on things with sizing. It protects you a little bit for inads. 2 yardsticks is easy. Yep, Harry says 2 yardsticks is easy. It works, right? That's fine. There's no problem with that either. eBay, Lynn says eBay crop and brighten features work very well. I agree. If I have to brighten or crop, I use the eBay right inside of it. Works great. There's the photo room thing's an extra step I don't think we need to be taking if we're taking good pictures. So I really am a big fan of having your measurements in your photos. That's just me. So now you've taken your pictures all the same, front, back, light, hair, watch for hair. I don't really, I scroll through a lot of pictures. I do a lot of store reviews and I'm always like, there's hair in there, like I understand that it's going to get biased once in a while, but it automatically gives people a predisposed ooh factor, right? And we don't give people ooh factors when they're first looking at our pictures, or then when they get it, they're like immediately looking for a flaw or something gross, right? And we all have it happen. I'm sure I miss it sometimes, but just be conscious of it. We all have pets, or a lot of us have pets. I'm pretty sure that Molly's hair can like fly through the air and stick in my light box. I can clean my light box before I turn around. I have a Molly hair in my picture, like in my light box. I don't know, and she's even short haired, but it like it attracts dog hair. So just watch it. So I take my pictures. My pictures take me hardly any time at all. Now here's where everybody's gonna be like, you do what? Right? Because I'm odd with my with my process. I go in, I take my pictures on my phone. Yes, I'm a phone picture taker. I'm never gonna hold a camera. I'm not gonna do it. You can't make me. If you want to use a camera, you guys use cameras. I feel like my phone does great. And I've said it before, but the designated phone just for eBay for the pictures and stuff has been a game changer for me because it doesn't ding, it doesn't give me notifications, it keeps me in the zone. So that's been a big thing for me lately. So I take my pictures, I've got my cell phone in my hand, I go in, I go sell similar off of an item, and something I get questions on a lot, but I've never listed this item before. Have I listed a brooch though? Yep. Okay, good. We're in business then, right? So if I have one vintage brooch that is a great listing, I can sell similar off of it and just make changes. So I sell similar off the most similar item that I have in my store that I've done a great job on. So I go in, hit sell similar, I put my pictures in, right? Because then it's like 2 seconds. Like I had it in my hand to take the pictures. Now I'm going in, hit sell similar. Yes, remove pictures. Bam, 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 bam. Put my pictures in. I back out the title of the old item. And now I'm going to just put in any flaws and any measurements I need in the title. So I only usually do measurements in the title if it's a bracelet or a necklace because people scroll and they want to know the size right away because they're not going to stop if it isn't the right size. I feel like that's helpful. If you don't feel like it's helpful, don't do it. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But maybe in clothing, that's where you put measurements. Any notes I need to remember to do a great listing, I put in there. So I'll put missing stone, dirty, heavy, any little keywords that'll help jog my memory about that piece, because as much as I like to say I'll remember, I don't. And I don't want a little piece of paper I have to carry around with flaws and measurements on it. That's just extra garbage to me. So again, if you have a process and it works, that's great. To me, this is very efficient for me. So now I've gone in, I've backed the title out, I've put the pictures in. I don't get this whole people struggling with the whole airdropping pictures or loading pictures or like, this sounds painful to me. That sounds really painful to me. Literally, I hit the button, bam, 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 my pictures are in, backed out the title, put any notes in. If it's sterling or something, I'll put sterling. Then the only other box I fill in at this step is my SKU box. So I go down to the very bottom, wherever my SKU box is. I back out the SKU, I enter the SKU. The last picture of all of my listings is a picture of the bag with the SKU number on it. Because I don't know, my fingers are, I don't know what's wrong with them sometimes, or if it's my brain or a little combination of both, but sometimes I get the SKU entered in wrong and then I'm looking, right? Then I don't know what happened. I don't know where my item is, but if the last picture is the actual item with the SKU picture on it, I can't mess it up too bad, right? I may have to take the extra step to check the picture, but at least I have a backup plan. So then I'm done for right now. That's my photo thing. So then I hit exit out of it. It saves it as a draft. Catherine mentioned the other day that the draft bank messes with her because she ends up with extras. I agree with Catherine. I cannot have a draft bank. I end up with extra drafts in there from us like checking a listing or we go in to fix something and now it creates a draft. If I had like 2 weeks of stuff in there, do you know how messed up my world would be? I tried a draft bank twice for a vacation. I messed it up so bad. I've never had problems like I had when I tried to do this draft bank thing everybody loves. It's not for me. I don't do it, but I am very consistent. And if I know I'm going to have time when I'm gone, then I schedule my listings out. But the draft bank wasn't for me. I messed them up. And then by the time I got to the draft, sometimes I was like, I have no idea what this item was. Or what shade was that? Is this lighting right? I start asking myself questions. I don't remember. I barely remember when I turn around and list them right away. That's me. Maybe you have a fresh brain that's not so jumbled as mine. So I go through, I've got that, I backed out, it's a draft. I do all of this in under 1 minute, no problem. And then it goes directly into the bag beside me of my listed items so I can put it away. Super fast for me. And now I have my draft. So that's step one. So I will go through all 25 items just like that. I do my 25 items of drafts in under an hour, right at 50 minutes. Right at 50 minutes. If you sell different things, your times are going to be different and should not ever be compared to mine or anybody else's. Even if you sell jewelry, don't compare to me, because you got to remember I didn't just start doing jewelry yesterday. So the only variations I have are necklaces, sets, earrings, brooches, things like that. But my process is pretty polished and pretty down. So don't think, oh, I can't do mine under an hour, I'm a failure. Nope, you sure aren't. If it's taking you a really long time, though, we need to talk about it. I feel like once you've been doing this for a while, and when I say a while, I mean like a year. A year is a while. You're not going to just come out of the gate with the perfect process. You're going to change your processes. You know, I just changed some of mine with that new phone deal. So I'm constantly changing too. So all that's going to take me 50 minutes, almost right on the dot. I tell you, if I stop and answer one text message, I'm going to be over an hour every time. That start stop kills me. Absolutely kills me. I don't know if it happens to anybody else. It happens to me. So now I've got my drafts, and I've got all 25 drafts. Now I'm going to get my laptop out. I'm going to start on my second hour of eBay. Grab my laptop. Then I go in. All I got to do is pull my draft, finish my listing. Done. That takes me right at an hour. I have no idea why that takes me more time than the first steps does, but it does. Sometimes I'm at an hour and a half. It depends on if I have to research. So that's something I want to talk about, is where we're getting stuck. So if it gets to my day of inventory, which I do right away when inventory comes in, I make that day of inventory to list. It's, unless I find a flaw I just didn't notice, it's getting listed. That doesn't mean I'm going to come across it and go, ugh, I got to look it up. I'm not sure. I'm just going to set this to the side. I don't do it. I may set it to the side of the end of that day's listing. I may do that draft last, but it's not getting set aside. I think especially in jewelry, but I'm sure it happens in other niches, people go down research rabbit holes. I do understand in-depth research if you feel like something might be worth a lot of money, right? So if it's going to be good money, and by good money, I mean like 60 and up maybe, I will take the time to do that in-depth research. However, if it's going to be a $20, $25 item all day long, what the heck are we doing? Right? List it to the very best of your ability and move on. Because remember, every time we take away, every time we spend extra time on that item, extra cleaning, extra research, extra anything, cha-ching, there's another at least $5 every 15 minutes. Give your item $5 because it just took $5 out of your pocket, right? Same thing with research. So I do research, but I do a lot of research on the front end. So I do research every day. I am a huge fan of research, but I try to do less of it on the back end because I hope to already have done it. I run across stuff all the time I don't know, and I will look it up, but you will get faster and faster at doing that on the fly research. But we need to have a process in place for research while we're listing so that we're not wasting too much time. If you waste 2 hours of research on something, that item better be worth at least $100 because you just took $20 times, for an hour out of your pocket, out of that item. Now it's not worth anything if it was only worth $20. Now you're going in the hole. So I don't get that. That's not a thing for me. I don't do it. I don't recommend doing it. Research it on the front end as much as you can. If it's only going to be a mediocre item to begin with, we need to just move on with our life, or we're going to be in the hole on all the items we're listing, because our time is the most important thing we have, and you can't go backwards on it. So that's why I say, like, why are we picking up shoes that we're going to list for $15 and we got to clean them? For every 15 minutes, you're taking $5 off of it. How long did it take you to clean that pair? Now you got a $10 pair of shoes. And now we're going to take off time for that. And then we're going to take off, probably take an offer. We got fees. We're going to make $1 on a pair of dirty shoes. Is that worth it to you? Not to me. I don't do it on jewelry either. I buy some gross jewelry, but it's got to be worth it, right? Because I can see what's underneath it. But it's got to be worth it. It's also worth it to me just a little bit more. I will pay a little bit more for beautifully clean jewelry because that's time I don't have to spend on it. So I go back in, I finish my listing. This is also something people will argue with me, and that's fine. I do as few item specifics as possible. I basically do what I feel is the minimum required to get my item seen and found. So I have done just recently some experimenting, and I keep track of all this. I'm not as good as Russell. I don't have percentages. I have no bar graph. I have no chart. There's no spreadsheet. This is just in my head. I've wrote it down throughout the time. So I don't say it unless I'm sure, right? But one thing was, and this I did almost a year ago. So eBay's algorithm, it did change a year ago. I don't care who you are, what you tell me, you're not going to convince me that something didn't majorly change in eBay about a year ago. At that time, I found that the shorter titles in my department, I don't know about clothing. I'm not sure about clothing, but I think it does affect clothing some. My search results are better with the less words. I no longer try to pack my title full of every keyword I can think of and every word I can think of in my title. I don't do it anymore. I have recently, maybe in the last 6 months, gone to just, I do believe that the BIGS acronym in clothing for titles works. I've seen enough of it in clothing. I've reviewed enough of it in clothing. So we have brand, item, gender, size. I do believe that still works. I've seen enough of people's stores that are successful and they're doing well that follow that and they're doing great. So brand, item, gender, size. For clothing, I think that works. For jewelry and all other niches, I feel like a version of that works. So if I have a piece of jewelry, if it is a strong brand, I will put brand first. Usually I put vintage first. I've tried it both ways. In my store, vintage first works best. I don't know if that's for everybody. I have no idea. For me, the vintage, if it's vintage, works best first. So I'll have vintage. If it's a strong brand, I have brand next. So if you have a brand that nobody cares about and is never going to look for, I don't put it there next because it's going to screw with the searches. Because now I've got this, like, if you have a Jerry's brooch, don't put vintage Jerry's brooch because nobody's looking for a Jerry's brooch. People may buy one if it's cool, if it's cute, if it's interesting. They're not buying it because of the brand. So if you have a brand name that nobody's going to buy because of the brand, I don't put it up front because it's not the most important thing. In my opinion, this is all my opinion, and I know I'm going to get lots of comments. It's fine. So if it's like vintage Hobey brooch, those are always my first 3 words. Vintage, the name brand, what it is. If you can't say the first 3 words in a row and have it make sense, it's wrong. It's wrong, in my opinion, because eBay is searching more and more how we are talking and how we are looking for things. Think about who your customer is. Who's your customer and how are they looking for things? Right? Most of my customers are going to type in things like vintage pearl brooch, vintage rhinestone brooch, vintage Hobey brooch, right? So those are always my first 3 words. If it doesn't have a name brand and it's rhinestone or it's pearl or it's whatever, that's how I put it. Because if I'm looking for a vintage rhinestone brooch, I'm typing vintage rhinestone brooch, right? That's what I'm typing. So my first 3 words, first 5 words are really important. Your first 3 words, I think, will make or break you. If you say them out loud and they don't make sense, you need to change them. So I say my titles out loud all the time. All the time. This is just my opinion. If people aren't actually searching for it, and do you know what I always hear back, especially in the jewelry world? Well, somebody probably is looking by that, or a collector might look by that. If your item is a collector grade item, I agree with you. Not in your first 3 words, but later, like words like cabochon and things like that. Certain people are typing that. But my everyday customer looking for a $20 to $30 brooch isn't. So if my bulk of who my customer is, and maybe your customer is that person, the bulk of my customers are looking in the jewelry department very generically or by brand. So I need to cater to that person. My customer isn't typing in a bunch of fancy jewelry terms. They just aren't. My titles are very short and they're very to the point, and I feel like it makes them more findable. clothing, I do still agree with the bigs. Maybe clothing keywords are more important and maybe you still need them. I would talk to somebody that's really successful in clothing. Like Stacia's knocking it out of the park in clothing. She probably knows more than I do. And we have a lot of really talented clothing sellers in this call and in this group. So maybe look like Stacia like appeared like she's like, oh, she's talking about me. Do you feel like keyword jamming is still important to clothing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
try
and I
I use as much as I can, up as much as I can.
Yep. So, and that doesn't really surprise me. For jewelry, the keyword jamming thing for me doesn't really work very well. I think it confuses my searches. So then I will fit, and I agree. I think in clothing, you guys have item specifics harder than I do, right? I feel like item specifics, the material and the size and all those things become more important, and I think they are necessary. So when I say you need to fill in as few item specifics as what is needed to find your item, unfortunately in clothing, that's a lot. I would say 8 out of 10 stores I review that sell clothing are not filling in all the item specifics or they're not right. And then I get well, but it was okay in the title. Yeah, that's not all right. We need to be clear. If you are going to take the time to enter in item specifics, they need to be right. We can't be almost right, and we cannot have conflicting information. If I go into a listing and it says one thing in the title and the other thing in the item specifics and another thing in the picture, I think you're incompetent and I'm not buying from you. I see all the time yeah.
Well, an example of something, and this is more of a question because I still do this in my clothing listings. So an example of something that might be considered unnecessary in your item specs in your listing for clothing could be perhaps the country that's made from.
Could be.
No one's really going to be looking for a shirt that was made in Thailand,
unless it's something special. Yep.
Well, if it's like a USA vintage,
right.
Do something like that. If it's like the Levi's with the red thread, whatever, obviously, but that would probably also go in my title perhaps. Yep. But I do tend to fill in too many item specs because that was what was taught a year or so ago. And so I'm still in that habit. So, if I'm like, oh, well, I remember the tag said it was made in China. So then I'll just go and I'll just put China in there because I know it. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily hurt our abilities to be found, does it? It's just like it slows it.
That was my last biggest experiment. So way back when, and I'm talking like right when I started, another jewelry seller I knew always used put in beauty and fashion in the theme for jewelry, and almost everything, right? So I thought, well, I'll try that, and I just did it automatically, and since I sell similar, it was carrying over, right? So when I went back through, I'm only on page 1 of 12 on this round, but when I go back through all of my listings that are still there, that are old, that's the only common denominator, because I've stopped doing it. So I feel like we limit ourselves, at least in my niche, when we're adding certain themes. I feel like we're limiting search. So I don't know why.
In clothing, the themes are like boho, city.
That's what ours. And I think that maybe it's okay, but I feel like theme and eBay, I don't know, but in mine, with the ones that I have, that's the common denominator, but with all mine that are not sold, is I have a weird theme in there. And so I've started not using the theme box. And I think Meg had something like that come up too, where I think she'd found that the theme
I stopped putting all of them and my sales have gone up. Not that necessarily means that's because it's gone up, but it just has not made them go down, and it definitely takes less time. I do still put them in clothing though, because I don't know, just like it's kind of stuck in my brain to do it, but.
And it may be.
I just realized though, I think your theory is right for jewelry more so, because people must not search with keywords as much when they search for jewelry, which makes sense. Like no one's sitting there and typing, I want a fairy cottage cord necklace, whatever,
They're not.
Like I want a gold chain necklace.
Yep.
Enter,
And I feel it's kind of like everything after if I get too wordy in my titles, I feel like it throws me in the wrong direction. I feel like themes are throwing me in the wrong direction. But that was the only consistent thing in those listings that hadn't sold, was that I had weird themes in there. So I took out all my themes. I'm not using themes anymore. I'm not saying don't use them anymore. And if you're a clothing seller, it very well may still be a big deal. I don't know, but it's just something for you to think about in your business, how it's working for you. Does not matter how it's working for me because I sell jewelry. If you're a jewelry seller, you may want to pay attention. But for me, I am not, I'm just not really filling in a lot of item specifics on my end on jewelry. I'm doing like women's, vintage, signed. If it is necessary and it's important for your item, then you need to enter it in on your item specifics. It is, if it's not something your people are searching for or searching by, then I would not. I know there's some people in again, I'm gonna get yes, Harry. So I totally agree with that. He said themes are only really apply if it's really applicable, like Disney. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are some themes I will still use, but I was like, every flower brooch I had, I would put in flower for the theme, right? The floral, whatever. I don't know. I think then the people that are just looking for a regular one weren't seeing it. I don't know. I think themes are weird in eBay, but I do agree. Like if somebody's going to like just look for Disney, that's absolutely true. They absolutely could look for Disney. So I do agree that there are times when themes are important, but only if it's really important. I feel like I feel like when I changed themes, things started changing a little bit for me. And I don't know why, but I do think it's filtering us. There are people that swear by the keywords everywhere, right? So I feel like keywords everywhere was more of a contender and more important when eBay was shoving our stuff to Google.
Yeah.
Which I sure wish they still did. Keywords everywhere is not eBay based. It is not eBay search based. It is Google. It's very much for Google, which is super important. But if you guys look, when I'm looking for things, I'm not getting a bunch of eBay listings shoved down my throat on Google anymore, unfortunately. I think once they made it as an offsite ad, I feel like we are not really getting pushed to Google as much. I feel like I just see so today, here's a hot tip for you. I couldn't find I have 2,200 jewelry items in my store. I needed to take this one brooch out because I dropped it today and I broke it. It wasn't sold yet or anything, but I couldn't find it. And I'm like, how did I describe this? I don't even know. So I Google Lensed it and then it came up in Google for me. So then I could find it in my eBay store. So that Google Lens still shows up in Google for us. Google is not pushing, eBay is not pushing our stuff to Google. I don't know if they had like a fight or if they divorced or what, or if they're just saving it for people to get them to pay for offsite. I don't know, but it's a problem now. But keywords everywhere is very Google based. So you think about in your niche, like for me with jewelry, people are searching for specific things that they're researching, specific things they're trying to look into. They're searching differently on Google than if they are actively shopping on eBay. So for me, the best way I can find for keywords or items, if I can't think of something, is to go look in the solds in items that have already sold that look like mine. Because that is eBay proven. Now, granted, you'll get some weird ones that you should not be mapping after, but it just gives you a better idea. I'm not going to use keywords everywhere that's shoving me to Google when Google isn't really finding my stuff anymore. Not easy anyway, which really stinks, but nobody asked me about that either. So I can get my listing done usually under a minute, but you need to have a process for the research. Yes, I agree. So if you're listing on Poshmark or Mercari, I could see that being more helpful. But either way, this sold is just as quick and it's more accurate if you're listing primarily on eBay. My very strong opinion that keywords everywhere, I would love everybody to delete it. I think for one, why are we spending time messing with that crap? Go look in your solds, find them there. And I don't know that I think it confuses more people than it helps. And it also, I feel like people use keywords everywhere to justify bad decisions in their titles. Like, well, but this many people are searching. Yeah, they're searching for that on Google, not in eBay. So check your solds. So this whole process, super fast for me, but I do sometimes get hung up on some research. I don't ever shove it to the side and say I'm going to do it later. I may put it at the end of my listings that day and do it last. but I don't ever shove it to the side. Sometimes I'll have to reach out to like, maybe I'm like, hey, Lynn, Meg, some of my jewelry people, I need help. But if I know I'm going to need help going into my drafts on something, I will reach out at the beginning so that hopefully by the end I have an answer. But I make myself list that item before I'm done listing because I don't like piles. I don't like, well, I'll get to it later. I just don't, I feel like that can sink us. Yeah, Becky.
Just curious, you were talking about how you do your listings, like very detailed, all the stuff you're doing. In your description box, would you mind sharing with us what you do in your description? Because mine's like, I've been doing the same thing for probably a year in my description box. I just want to kind of hear from you and see if I'm still kind of hitting it right in my description box.
You probably are. Mine's pretty boring. For one, don't make it, mine's boring. Mine's the very first thing in my description box is in big letters if there's a flaw. Like big, huge letters if there's a flaw. If I have a flaw in an item, I'm still old fashioned. I put read in the title. Does it always work? No. Does it work most of the time? Yes. But of course, some people still aren't going to read. People aren't really into our descriptions anyway. I really wish they would be. I wish we could make amazing flowery description. They'd be great, but really people don't pay attention. The more garbage that's in your description, the less they pay attention to what they need to. So I caps lock, put major flaws or whatever right at the beginning. And then after that, I'm a huge fan of text blaze. And I'll put / descript. Bam, there's my description. I'm done. And my description says that I don't clean the jewelry. And I have a separate one for lots. So if it's a lot, I put / lots. Bam, there's my description for lots. It says I don't clean it. In the lots, it says
what? Is that like a shortcut on your keyboard?
It's an extension. It's an extension, a Google extension. I think Harry told me about it. Like, I think that was Harry told me about it a long time ago.
Saved my life.
Man, it's amazing. I use it in so many aspects of my life. I have a short, so look up Text Blaze if you haven't, it's free. It just gives you, so you make your own shortcut and then whatever you type in, then it automatically gives you that shortcut. So I have one for our Zoom link. I have one for our Facebook group link. I have one for lot descriptions. I have one for regular descriptions. Love it. Also, if people don't know this, if you do use Text Blaze and you're in a spot and you can't remember what you did for your description, for your shortcut, you can right click and go down and it'll say sample Text Blaze, and then you go and it'll show you your little batches of them. Because I forget sometimes. I don't know. It's kind of one of those, like, you leave yourself a note and you don't know what you are trying to tell yourself. It's kind of one of those. Love Text Blaze. I feel like that has probably been one of the best. Yeah, I can't find one for Android. Would love one for Android. Can't figure it out in Android, but Text Blaze has probably been one of the bigger game changers for me in the last year. I use it all the time and it's pretty great. So check it out if you don't see it. But my description just says, hey, I don't clean my jewelry. And then I also put in there, hey, I offer free shipping over $50 orders. I combine shipping, 50 cents each additional item. But it's pretty short. It's to the point. If we put a whole bunch of crap in there, people just zone out and they don't read it at all. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I put in mine, basically like, hey, check out my eBay store. I lot things together. I do a bundle, that kind of stuff. Kind of like,
yep, that's good.
And
I do that too. So my very last line in my description says, hey, don't forget to hit the heart by my name to save me as a favorite seller. I list new jewelry items every day, and I already have over 2,200 items for you to look at.
That's good.
And so I do that.
On your extension, then you just do whatever magic you do, and it populates there in the.
I do / descript. The descript is mine. I could have it say anything. I could just have it say /D if I wanted to, and then just pre-populates it all for me.
Okay.
It's amazing. You will love it. You will thank us. So it might be, Lynn. I think it probably is, but you can do it in so many different, you can use it in anywhere on your computer. I can use it It's just easier for me just to type my thing and I don't have to go to any pull down boxes or anything. So I can do, some of them just have an F on it. So I'll just do /F, bam, it's there. It's really fast. So I love it. I use TextBlaze for Facebook. I use TextBlaze for all sorts of stuff. So if you don't have it, look into it. So then that's pretty much the end of my listing process. I am a huge believer in putting away all your stuff at the end. We do not need stuff laying around that we already listed. We don't need stuff cluttering wherever you're listing at. You can get confused. You can drop things. You can lose things. If you're me, like I was going through pins yesterday and my cat came and ripped it out of my hand and ran away with it. So if I leave them on my table, the cat's definitely getting it. So
It looks like it's called Blaze Tech when I did a Google search. Is that correct? Am I finding the right thing?
I'm pretty sure mine's TextBlaze. I
It's
can't.
text. It's text blaze.
TEXT.
Yeah.
Text.
Yep.
Blaze.
Text.
BLAZE.
Yep.
And it's a Chrome extension right off of Google's.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty amazing. So yeah, Harry gets that. I think Harry and Russell brought it up, but that was definitely a game changer for me. I use it all the time. Would love to have it on my phone because I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I'll like find myself doing my shortcut thing in my phone and it just sits there and I'll be like, oh, I'm on my phone. That's pretty much the end of my listing. So I guess in a nutshell, the way I would tell you guys with listing is, for one, it shouldn't be painful. If it's painful and it's taking you forever, well, Harry, if you know of one for an Android, you let me know because I would love it. If it's painful, if it's taking you all day, I don't care what you sell. If you have a good process in place, it should not be taking you all day to list 10 items. I am sorry, it just shouldn't. If you're getting distracted, distractions are the main thing that I see. Like I said, if I answer one text message, bam, I'm over the hour. And you don't have to be the fastest person. If you aren't trying to blow up your business and this isn't like your full-time deal, I still think it's good to be efficient, but it's not as big of a deal, right? So I finally it took me, when did I start doing 25? Like in June, I think I started doing 25 a day in June. I'm just now to where it doesn't feel hard. That's another thing. So this isn't really part of our process, but just part of what I feel is, don't increase your listing goal if the previous listing goal still feels hard. And that's all of it, not just listing, but the shipping, the customer service, the photography. If it still feels hard, don't increase it yet. And when you do increase it, you don't have to increase it by 5. I see that a lot, 5 or 10. Start with 1 or 2. Because when you hit you need to know where that brick wall is. And I will say that I still feel like number 21 to 25 pictures take as long as the whole first 20. A lot of times I feel like that first 20 flies by, that last 5 feels like it takes a while. But I'm just getting to where it doesn't feel hard anymore. Does that mean I'm going to go to 30 right now? Nope. I'm going to take it easy for a little bit. I'm going to coast at 25 for a while, because I have other things in my business I need to tighten up and I need to get better at. So I'm going to wait. But just don't think you have to increase things any faster than what works for you. Don't say, well, so-and-so's doing 20. I don't care. Who cares? Do 5 amazing. That's what I want to see everybody to do. I want you to be saying that you're doing the same amount approximately every day and that you're doing amazing. You feel amazing, because there's just no competition. And I think that's the biggest drop off point, is people go from like 10 to 20 and then all of a sudden they quit because they end up with having too many problems. I ran into a pain point with customer service. You increase your listings, you increase your problems. Period. End of story. That's the way it works. So you got to be ready for it. Or you increase your listing goal and all of a sudden you're not seeing the whole avalanche of sales. So then you're like, well, this stinks and I'm not doing it. It doesn't happen overnight. I can't explain it, but it just doesn't. It's about 2-3 months before I even really saw much of anything. So it's hard. You also have to be able to cash flow those extra listings. That was hard for me too. So and that's it too. When you increase it, now your sourcing increases, everything increases, shipping increases, everything. So just be aware of it. And don't feel like it's a big race, because I'd rather have you say, I'm doing amazing 5 than saying I'm struggling and messing everything up at 20. Harry says trying to increase from 5 clothing items to 7 and it's hard to keep up your sourcing and keep your metrics, then it's fine. But if you try to go from 5 to 10, it would be worse. So little increases are just as big of a win. The 25 increase, the 25 was the hardest for me. I really felt that one. I felt it when I went from 20 to 25, and it was hard. It's just now starting not to be hard. Because also I feel like you're more prone to want to go backwards if it's really hard versus if you add an extra couple in, it's not as hard. And I feel like you're less likely to just give up and go backwards. So that is my spiel today on our listing process. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording here. If you guys want to join us, go to Reseller Revenue Facebook group. We meet 8 a.m. on Monday through Thursday. And it will be changing to 9 a.m. This is Central Time, starting in January.